I watched Saturday night's main event after I got home from the House of Glory show, so I didn't have the issues that a lot of you guys apparently had with the English and the Spanish commentary coming through at the same time for the first 10 minutes of the show. I can imagine that did not sound very pleasant, because it was all fixed on Peacock when I watched it. I thought it was an enjoyable show, but very much a Paul Levesque show in that they played it very safe, and it was very predictable. He did the same thing with the last Saturday night's main event in December, and he did the same thing with War Games at Survivor Series. And my big takeaway, we're too deep now, right? 2 shows deep in this new era of Saturday night's main event so far. And my big takeaway from these shows is that it is very much like AEW with Battle of the Belts, in that they are, now obviously these shows are bigger than those, but they are contractually bound to do them. They don't really need them. They're probably more of an annoyance than anything else. But for WWE, it is a chance to broadcast live on NBC 4 times a year and plug their shit to a wider audience that might not watch the product on a regular basis. You know, that's what this is. Nothing of any major significance happens on these shows. Nothing of any major significance happened on the first one. Since technically the angle with Kevin Owens giving Cody the package pile driver, that happened off the air. That didn't even technically happen on the show. And nothing of any major significance happened here either. No major angle, nothing. I don't even mind there being no title changes because I don't want them doing one for the sake of doing one, which is what Jey Uso beating Gunther would have been had he won the world title. Rhea Ripley was never losing her title, and Sheamus falling short of winning the Intercontinental Championship again is hopefully setting up a title change on a bigger stage like WrestleMania. So what you end up with, you hope, is at least an entertaining 2 hours with some good wrestling matches and maybe another segment thrown in, some kind of promo or something like the contract signing, which was basically a giant advertisement for the Royal Rumble. And what an advertisement it was, having the retired near 60-year-old Shawn Michaels dropping your number 1 contender for the WWE title with a super kick. San Antonio or not, that was dumb. But I'm glad they kept a lot of the retro elements, like the music and the red, white, and blue ring ropes. This time they brought back the old school Madison Square Garden microphones that dropped down from the ceiling. I mean, now we're going old school. The audio on those microphones was coming in a little hot, but that was a nice touch, I thought. They brought in more legends. No Hulk Hogan, who could not be there supposedly because his son was getting married. I hope it was a dry wedding and not open bar. Ted DiBiase was supposed to be at the last one, but had to duck out for a minor medical procedure, but he was there this time with the $1 million belt. They had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Dory Funk Jr. God bless Dory. You know, they showed video of him in the 1995 Royal Rumble. And he looked 75 then, even though he was only 52. And he's still alive and kicking today. So that's great to see. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard were there, Mark Henry, since they were in Texas, and Alundra Blaze with her women's title that she threw in the trash on Nitro. She was there as well. They had Jesse the Body Ventura back doing stand-ups on what Michael Cole said they are now calling the Okerland position, as a tribute to Mean Gene Okerlund. Now, I don't know if he just mispronounced the man's name and called it Okerland instead of Okerland, or if that's really what they're calling it, the Okerland position. I think he just mispronounced the guy's fucking name, because I hear Okerland and it sounds like an amusement park. But either way, I think it's a very cool gesture. I think it's very cool that the gorilla position is named after Gorilla Monsoon, and still to this day even. And now Mean Gene has his own area named after him. It's very appropriate. Many an interview he conducted on that platform. Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax, they opened the show and they had what I thought was a very good match. These two had a good match last year when they headlined Elimination Chamber. And it's nothing that's going to make anyone's match of the year list, but I rate both of their matches pretty much the same. I thought Rhea gave Nia the best match of her career up to that point last year at the Chamber. Now, I think Nia's matches with Naomi recently were better, but this one is right up there, I think, with their match in Perth. There was a code red that Rhea gave Nia for a great near fall. Rhea's attempt at a riptide was countered into a Samoan drop. The challenger headed up top for a leg drop on Rhea, which she hit, but that was not enough for the 3 count. And then in the corner, we had Rhea showing off some of her strength and dropping Nia with a power bomb. She kind of got under her in a power bomb position. She attempted a prism lock. Nia countered out of it. It looked like Rhea was having a bitch of a time trying to get that thing on. I couldn't tell if they just called an audible after a while, because it was going on for a while, where she was trying to get her in position for this move. And I don't know if she just told Nia, just kick me away, or if that was the plan all along. It felt to me like she was trying to get it on, and after a while, she's like, you know what? Like, let's just move on here. Nia hit the Annihilator to Rhea while Rhea was laying on her stomach. And then as she attempted for a second one, a proper one, Rhea got back up and got her in position for an electric chair drop. And Rhea was finally able to get her up for the riptide and then pinned her to retain the Women's World Championship. And hey, you know what? Credit to Nia Jax. She plays her role well, and Rhea is so strong. I mean, maybe not Bianca Belair strong, although it's close. But that is one of the reasons I want to see that match at WrestleMania. But Rhea was able to power her up for some cool moves, and she pulled it off. But it felt like when this match was over, Nia made her earn that win. Now, they had Jesse do commentary on this show for the Intercontinental Championship match, or as he said, I do miss when they call it the Intercontinental Heavyweight title, between Sheamus and Braun Breaker. The first Intercontinental title match on Saturday night's main event since Shawn Michaels won the title from the British Bulldog in 1992. Would history repeat itself last night? Unfortunately, the answer is no. But we got one hell of a TV match out of it. They did a spot on the outside where Breaker caught Sheamus leaping off the steps with a super spear that just looked brutal. And Sheamus, after the match was over, went on social media and said that that is the hardest spear that he has ever taken in his career. And it looked like it too. I mean, if you watch it back, you don't have to think he's embellishing or wondering, is he telling the truth? Oh, he's telling the truth, all right. Find me another spear in all the matches Sheamus has had in the last 15 years on the main roster that look more vicious than this one. And so Breaker focused on his ribs after that for the rest of the match, and he hit the Frankensteiner off the top. He set up for the final spear, but Sheamus caught him with a brogue kick and seemingly had the match won, but Braun was close enough to the ropes. He got his foot on the bottom rope at the last possible second. But don't say that to Jesse Ventura, who absolutely lost his mind and insisted that it was a 3 count and it was a bad call by the referee. Even after the match was over, he would not shut up about it. He would not let go of the fact that Sheamus should be the champion right now and that the referee fucked up. When, in fact, the referee did not fuck up. And on the replay, it's clear as day. And they showed the replay, and he would not relent. On the replay, it's clear as day he held up the count as soon as he saw the foot touch the bottom rope, and he was staring right at it. It was bizarre. It felt very forced. It was bizarre hearing Jesse argue otherwise, because he was always known to be the voice of reason. He was always the one who actually made sense. And on this call, he made no sense. He was not as sharp on this show as I thought he was on the last one, but I do appreciate his callback to that number 1 contenders battle royal, and I'm sure they had to remind him of this. I mean, I don't think he fucking remembered a battle royal on Raw from 2009. But when he was on Raw in 2009, right? They brought him in. He was the guest host or the guest GM or whatever he was. And he was back on commentary with Vince McMahon for one night only. And he made Vince wear the old tuxedo and the bow tie. And he came down to the ring to Obsession. To no reaction, because people they know him, coming down to the ring to no chance in hell. He's coming down to fucking Animotion. And so the people in the building were like, what? Right? They had no idea. But that night, Sheamus won a number 1 contenders battle royal. And Jesse here argued that it was that battle royal win on that one episode of Raw in 2009 that set him up for the career success that he had. And I know on the surface that might sound completely preposterous, but it did lead to Sheamus wrestling John Cena in a tables match at TLC and winning his first WWE championship. So he's not wrong. Like, I thought he sounded more ridiculous at the beginning of the show when he was talking about how Sheamus has to win the Intercontinental title if he wants to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, as if he doesn't win the Intercontinental title, he won't be in the Hall of Fame. Like that's a ridiculous statement. But this is not as ridiculous as it may sound. It's plausible, at least, in terms of kayfabe, to think that that Battle Royal win is what set him on his path to all of the success that he ended up having. Because it was an important win for him that night. And Jesse even kind of went heel at the end of the show, if you remember that night in the contract signing segment with Cena and Sheamus. Jesse cut a promo on Cena that I've never held that title. I've never been world champion before. He was going off on him. And then Sheamus, kind of ambushed Cena. But I guess Jesse always was a heel, technically. So Sheamus tried for another brogue kick. His ribs gave out, though. Breaker seized the moment, hit a spear, and pinned him to retain. I'm sad that Sheamus lost yet again. I am hopeful, with him moping around backstage after when they tried to interview him for their socials, that this is the start of a story that leads to him getting one last shot at WrestleMania, do or die. He may have to put his career on the line to get it done. And it might even make the outcome predictable, but I don't give a shit. There has to come a point where it's not just another Intercontinental title shot for him. Because they pointed out, like, he's had 9 or 10 of them, and he's lost every single one of them. So, like, if they're going to do this, and they're going to have him finally get his moment at WrestleMania, which I think would be very appropriate in front of a nice big crowd, there's got to be something else on the line. It cannot just be Sheamus gets another match. It has to be a case where he is willing to put it all on the line. And I think you could try anyway to convince the audience, like, because he's been there forever. And what is he, 45, 46? I mean, I know he signed a 5-year deal. He's not going anywhere. But you could have him go out there and say, look, I've done everything there is to do. I have been world champion before. I have won Royal Rumbles and King of the Ring tournaments and tag team titles and everything that there is to do except this one thing. And I can't stand it that I can't seem to win that championship. It's eating me up inside. I can't sleep at night. And so I'm willing to lay it all on the line. I'm going to put my career on the line. If I can't win this title this time, then I'm done. And so you have that added drama now going into, let's say WrestleMania. It's at least plausible. People, could buy into the idea that as long as he's been around for, maybe this really is it for Sheamus. And then he wins the title, and it's a great moment. I hope they pursue that story. Shawn Michaels was out in his hometown of San Antonio, Texas, to officiate the contract signing for the ladder match at the Royal Rumble between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, who were out there with their respective belts. As Shawn was walking to the ring, they had that narrow aisleway again with the guardrails, and they had 2 security guards behind. But he looks over and he laughs at a sign a fan had that said, HBK is mid. And he just laughed it off and kept walking. HBK was a lot of things in his day, but I assure you, mid was not one of them. And that's coming from a Bret Hart fan. So Michaels asked both men to be seated, and they would not sit. They continued to stand and stare at each other. So Michaels said that he was given the mission of having them both sign the contract since Nick Aldis couldn't get it done. He's not leaving here until they both put their signatures on this contract. And Cody went and signed the contract right away. Owens looked at the contract, and then he took the microphone. He put the pen down. He took the microphone. He said, Cody really pissed him off on SmackDown when he made that comment that he always takes the easy way out. And Owens said that he could have done that by taking out Cody's knee at Bash in Berlin, but he didn't do it because he cared about their friendship more than Cody did. And I love that. I love that callback because I had forgotten about that. And that's going back to August now, right? The very end of August. But they're looping that little piece of history into the story here where it's like, you had the knee issue. I could have taken advantage of it, but I didn't because I thought too much of you as a friend. Cody cut Owens off and said, I'm done worrying about you. I need to focus on who I'm going to be defending my championship against at WrestleMania. So he asked Owens to sign the contract. Look at this guy. He's already looking past Kevin Owens to WrestleMania. Looking past his opponent. He deserves to lose. Owens teased signing the contract. Again, he dropped the pen. And he grabbed the microphone and he said he's going to shut everybody up at the Royal Rumble when he wins the title. And he said once he does, everything that Cody has been getting will all go to him. He said he's deserved it for the last 10 years and he's going to be taking it all from Cody Rhodes. And then Michaels piped up and said, Jesus, Kevin, you sound jealous. And Owens said, what did you say to me? And Michaels repeated it. And Owens said that Michaels is just like Cody because when things got tough, he also quit. He said he's bringing more pride to the Winged Eagle belt than Michaels ever did. And he said he'll give the fans a champion they can be proud of, not someone who loses his smile. So he finally signs the contract. Michaels said the only thing left to do now is take their belts and hang them above the ring, which was very goofy since there was no match last night. But I get they wanted their visual. They wanted their photo op. So he had a referee join him in the ring, and they had that giant hook. And they attached the one belt to one side of the hook and the other belt to the other side, and they raised it just enough, but not too much, that it could be in the camera shot. And Michaels wished both men good luck, and he offered Kevin Owens a handshake. Owens did not flinch. Michaels extended his hand to Cody, and Cody shook his hand, and Owens hit Cody with a cheap shot. And Michaels, he yells at Owens, and then he turns around to walk away. And Owens spins Michaels around, and he is setting him up. He kicks him in the gut, and he's setting him up for a package pile driver. And Cody super kicks Owens before he could execute the move, and then Shawn Michaels, his hat fell off. And so he very quickly, put the hat back on because we got bald Shawn Michaels, which is still just a trip for me to see. He puts the hat back on and tunes up the band. And he puts Kevin Owens down with some sweet chin music. And the champion's music plays to end the segment. The segment itself was fine. Again, it was a giant advertisement for the ladder match coming up next weekend. Here's what I want to know. What happened to the addendum to the contract that Nick Aldis talked about last week on SmackDown? He kept using that word over and over again. There's a contract and there's an addendum to the contract, and I need you to sign it. There was no mention of it last night. Was it just forgotten about? Or are they going to bring it up this Friday? It sounds like they just dropped the entire thing. So that's number one. Number two, I understand they gave the crowd in San Antonio a crowd-pleasing moment. And maybe Kevin Owens was marking out on the inside, eating a super kick from Shawn Michaels. But Shawn Michaels super kicking Kevin Owens, and that segment ending in the way that it did, as opposed to doing another, like a heat angle, where Owens is left standing tall and more menacing than ever before. To put more heat on this match at the Royal Rumble, I think was a big missed opportunity. I think it was a big mistake. Right? There's nothing gained from having 60-year-old Shawn Michaels kick the challenger in the face when you have to expect the challenger probably doesn't stand much of a chance next weekend. And you got to put as much heat on this guy as you possibly can going into this ladder match. That's why, the idea that I had pitched, and they didn't have to do it this exact way, but something to this effect, where you have to neutralize Cody in order to do the angle the proper way. You get Cody tied up in the ropes, and Cody is helpless. All he can do is watch, and you have Kevin Owens lay out Shawn Michaels with a pile driver. All right, because everybody loves Shawn Michaels, right? And he's the father of NXT, and everyone in San Antonio would boo the hell out of Kevin Owens as Cody Rhodes is stuck in the ropes, tied up, unable to help, foaming at the mouth, just trying to get his hands on this guy. And Owens delivers one final parting message as he leaves. And you put more heat on him by having him beat up Shawn Michaels, just the way he beat up Randy Orton, right? Who hasn't been seen since. To me, that would have been a lot more productive. They did what they did. Whatever. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but it didn't leave Kevin Owens looking very good at the end of that segment. Then we had Braun Strowman against Jacob Fatu. Monster Madness. Not quite the Demolition Derby I was hoping for, and it had a lame finish. But the real story was the post-match. We got the Strowman Express at ringside, with Strowman sending Fatu into the barricade with a running charge. He goes for another one, and he pounces Fatu over the announce desk. He goes for a third one, and this time Fatu scooped him up, hit a Samoan drop on top of the announce desk, which did not break. Think about that. A Samoan drop to Braun Strowman on top of the announce desk, and the fucking table didn't break. So back in the ring, Fatu is just destroying this man with running hip attacks, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And Strowman is down in the corner and he is stunned. And the referee tries to stop him. That's a bad idea. He gets thrown out of the ring by Fatu. And now with nobody there to stop him, he unleashes even more running hip attacks in the corner. Finally, the referee outside, he calls for the disqualification. Now, Fatu ends up tossing a chair into the ring. Security pours out along with Nick Aldis. They're going to try to stop the mayhem here, but they can't. Even he flung the chair at one of the security guys' heads. Strowman is bleeding now because all the attention for a moment there is off of Strowman. So it allows him to do whatever he did. You know, put a fucking condom in his mouth or whatever. And so Strowman is bleeding from the mouth, bleeding all over the place from the mouth. Fatu breaks free from the security. He hits the best moonsault ever, right? Big pop. Crowd starts chanting one more time. So he breaks free again, hits another moonsault. They finally get this guy out of the ring. He comes back to the ring and hits another moonsault. And the people are going nuts and they're chanting for him. They're chanting for Fatu. This was a great way to turn this guy babyface. I just don't know if that's what they intended to actually do. This was basically the same angle they did with Bronson Reed giving Seth Rollins the 6 tsunami splashes. And that's the angle that made Bronson Reed a player on Monday Night Raw. So it's not a bad idea to just replicate it, but it just made for a weird dynamic here where you would want the fans to be concerned for Braun Strowman, and instead they're cheering for this guy to murder this man. But it was a strong angle. It was a star-making, post-match angle here for Fatu. I like the fact that they're putting more shine on him now. Solo Sikoa, has walked away. And so it's giving Fatu more of an opportunity to come out of his shell and cut promos and then do stuff like this. And it makes him look like an absolute beast. So I like that. And I want to see them do more of that. And they close with Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso. There were so many ad breaks where you could tell they were cutting to a commercial. I didn't see any of them because I was watching the replay and the ads were all cut out. But I could see where that would have made watching this match live just insufferable. And they again talked about all of Gunther's wins over Jey in the past. They even mentioned that Gunther eliminated Jey from the Royal Rumble last year. Like, he's got this guy's number. And what did he do? He beat him again. Gunther hit him with a powerbomb. Jey kicked out. Jey made a comeback. He went up top for the splash. Gunther cut him off. And Jey went underneath him, hit a running Liger bomb for a 2 count. Gunther tried the power bomb again, but Jey hit a Frankensteiner and a spear for a 2 count. The crowd went nuts for that spot. He hit a super kick and then another spear. He went up top. He hit the Uso splash. And Gunther kicked out. Another great near fall. One thing you can't say is that these people were not into these near falls and believing with all their hearts that Jey Uso was going to win that world title. He tried another spear. Gunther caught him, powerbombed him, hit another one, and then stacked him and got the win. There was no Drew McIntyre. There was no Drew McIntyre distraction or interference like I thought there would be. Gunther just beat him clean. Again. And I suppose if I can sit here and still want to see Sheamus win the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, despite all of the clean losses that he has taken when challenging for that title, then you could say the same for Jey Uso because he is still so over right now. So are we looking at a scenario where Jey Uso challenges Gunther one more time for the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania and finally wins it? Because again, they were leaning in very hard on the fact that Jey he can't figure this guy out. He keeps losing to him. Are we looking at a surprise Jey Uso win in the Royal Rumble? One cannot discount the possibility. I know everybody is talking about Cena and Punk and Roman and maybe even The Rock. I don't hear anybody mentioning Jey Uso's name, and I think it's time people started including him in that discussion for next weekend.